All right, a few weeks ago, I did an interview with Andreas Einfeld, the former, well, I guess he's the CEO of something called the Diet Doctor, now an application called Hava, Basin society. And this has created a fairly significant amount of controversy and with people arguing on both sides of this sort of philosophy on eating higher fat versus higher protein when it comes to weight loss and health in the context of low carb and often carnivore diets. And in that video, I described that I was eating a lot. He asked me for one day of food advice. So I basically logged everything and set it into him. And on that particular day, I ate a very high amount of protein, something like 500 grams of protein, and it was about 40% protein by calorie. And I said I'm currently trying to gain some size, get stronger, so on and so forth, and that's why I was doing that. It wasn't really my sort of maintenance level. On maintenance, I'd eat a little bit less, but nonetheless, it spawned this argument about, is higher fat better or is higher protein better when it comes to various outcomes? And you have some advocates on both sides. On the high fat side, people like Amber O'Hearn, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for. She's very thoughtful, insightful. And there are people like Ted Nyman on the high protein side, Luis Villasenor from Keto Gains on the high protein side, Rafi Sertoli on the high fat side. And, back and forth about, what's best or what happens. And I think, the problem is there's no real specific good research data on this specific situation, particularly not with carnivore anyway. It just doesn't exist yet. And so I did what I often do is I said, hey, what's been your experience? And I asked literally hundreds upon people. And not surprisingly, I got very mixed results. Some people said, hey, I do great on high fat. I lose weight. I feel great. This is the best I feel. Conversely, there's other people saying, hey, high fat didn't work for me. I do better on high protein, right? And what I would say is I certainly see, again, I've been interacting with people on carnivore diets now for years and years, and I see the exact same thing. Some people do better on high fat. Some people do better with high protein. I have lost weight on high fat. I definitely can do that, and basically you get into a pretty significant deficit doing that, and can the fat be satisfying in a way? I think it can be, depending on how it's formulated and how you consume that. And I think for me, when I lost a lot of weight doing it that way, I lost a decent amount of lean mass with it, which is not something I like. Many of the people that are coming from a background of being, very, very, very overweight, and they lean out on high fat for sure, or they can. And then they get to a point where maybe they don't have the desired body composition. When you get down to trying to be relatively muscular, and very lean at the same time, that's challenging to do on an exclusively high fat approach, I think. Again, there may be exceptions to that. I think the vast majority of people that compete in physique type sports tend to be higher protein and lower fat. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Now, does it come with some sacrifice and hunger and issues? Yes, it does for many people. Yeah, and so again, is the ultimate health achieved at a body fat of 6%? I'm not convinced it is. I think there's probably most people are going to feel better, perform better, and both physically and cognitively with a little more body fat. For most people, there's some genetic outliers that can walk around with just ripped all the time. That's not, in my view, most people, and I'm certainly not one of those. I find that the other thing that I think is important for certain people, particularly people that are diabetic, pre-diabetic, insulin resistant, is that in my experience, the level of glycemic control on a higher fat approach is better for me. And again, that comes with the caveat that you are not over consuming calories, right? Because once you start over consuming calories, whether it's fat, carbs, even protein, you're going to have, when you're storing too much energy, your glycemic control is going to be not as good as if you're not. So when you're in a weight loss phase, yeah, your glucose is going down, or you're in a sort of a minimal maintenance phase, your glucose is going to be pretty well controlled for most people, even with many diabetics. So who might benefit from a higher fat approach? Well, clinically, what I see is people with mood disorders, mental health issues, central nervous system issues like dementia, multiple sclerosis, those things tend to do well on a bit of a higher fat approach, and and to some degree, some of the autoimmune conditions. And who might do better on a higher protein approach? Certainly, people who are athletic in training. I think that's an important caveat there, because if you're out there trying to crank it up in the gym, I think you need more protein to support that, and there's a vast amount of literature that certainly agrees with that. Again, context, not carnivore literature, because that's not been done yet. Hopefully we'll have that as time goes by. So once again, let me know what your perspective is. Do you find higher fat works better? Do you find higher protein works better? And again, high versus low is kind of arbitrary, but in my view, the range of acceptable fat percentages for people on carnivore is between 50% and 90% fat. That's where most people fall, and the vast majority of them even in a narrower range than that. But if you're a 50% protein guy or a 90% protein guy, let's talk about that, guys. Let's see what you guys think on that. All right, guys, let me know what you think. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.